it's just an example. Purdue losing to Fresno State is okay. We still win the Big Ten West. But me,
Billy Napier gets fired. I'm just kidding.
hey, really the best time of the year. I will be seated watching Red Zone for 7 hours on Sunday. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to an episode of Backyard Banter. Johnny, James, and Tanner. We're back. First, not big news, recurring news. We're on Spotify now. I figured out how to get us onto Spotify. It's weird. It's a video on Spotify, but you can also have it on without listening to the video, and you can download it to listen when you don't have Wi-Fi or data or anything like that. So we're on Spotify at Backyard Banter on Spotify. You see our logo and subscribe if you're new. We're at 355. We're trying to get to 400. I don't really know what a good goal for that is. Maybe 400 by Halloween or something like that. Halloween or maybe Thanksgiving, but something like that. But I always forget to say those things, so I'm saying them at the beginning today. But the slate was better than the games were in the college and NFL. We're going to start with college. So I'm just going to go to you guys. There are 3 main games. We're all going to talk about one. But Tanner, what was the main takeaway from you from the weekend?
Yeah, the main takeaway for me is Oklahoma State sucks. Their offensive line can't get a push. Their passing game struggled. And Ollie Gordon is nowhere close to the player he was a season ago.
Who called that? Who called that last episode?
I got to give credit to John. I got to give credit to Johnny. I mean, he said it. Ollie Gordon does not look like the same player. He's not the same player. I mean, he really struggled to just get positive yardage, really, to be honest. I mean, he was sitting right at like 1.5 yards per carry going into the fourth quarter, just couldn't get going. Oklahoma State, yeah, sure, they lost by 3. That game was not that close. No. Utah dominated that game. They dominated up front. They dominated really every phase of the game, every aspect of the game, but really the trenches, and they were just a more physical football team, which is not surprising to see out of Utah. That's typically their bread and butter, but this leads into me talking about the Big 12. It's a mess. Kansas State lost. Kansas isn't as good as people expected. Now all of a sudden we got Iowa State and BYU ranked. The Big 12 is a total mess. Utah looks really good right now. Arizona had that tough loss at K-State. Maybe they can bounce back, but I'm really looking at the Big 12, and I'm trying to figure out who is going to be playing Utah in the Big 12 championship game. I think we can – I mean, it's still early, but pretty confident Utah is going to end up getting there. Who's going to play them? I look at a team like UCF personally.
Oh, no.
They have a very weak Big 12 schedule. They play Colorado this week, James, at home, and they are 14-point favorites. I like UCF a lot, weak schedule. They do get Utah at home the final week. But, yeah, the Big 12 is an absolute mess. I mean, nobody saw BYU and Iowa State being ranked in, like, week 5. So, yeah. Big 12's crazy, and Utah is by far the best team in it. That's what I got to say.
Yeah. To comment on the Big 12 real quick, Oklahoma State goes to Kansas State this week. So that's an elimination game in the Big 12. And so that's a big game in Manhattan in Kansas State. Early prediction, I think Kansas State wins by like 2 touchdowns because I think Oklahoma State is atrocious, and it showed there. But yeah, Big 12 is in. If we still did legendary and in shambles, no one's more in shambles than the Big 12 outside of Utah and UCF. Taryn, I agree with you that UCF could be in the Big 12 championship at this point. And that, like, they got a big game with Colorado this weekend. There's not like UCF is still new to the stage, right? And they got big noon kickoff going there. They're going to show out. I know a lot of people that go to UCF. You know, they're amped up for that game. But James, what stood out to you?
Yeah, well, one, I thought BYU had a really good chance to beat Kansas State. I didn't think they were going to do it in that fashion. I will say this one thing: Avery Johnson sucks. Good runner of the football, but I can't stand watching him throw the football. That's a frustrating thing for me. But yeah, we'll talk about the Tennessee game because, I mean, it was an okay game. Truthfully, like I think okay is the best way to say it. Tennessee was just able to run the football in Oklahoma, and Oklahoma was simply not able to run the ball in Tennessee. Dylan Sampson is a stud. 92 yards, I think, on a ton of carries, and it was one of his worst games in terms of yardages. He's very good. But Tennessee's got an ability to run the ball with other guys than Dylan Sampson. Like, they have dudes all over the place, and then Nico can run it a little bit too. I know he struggled a little bit here and there. Throwing the football, he wasn't as good as maybe we've seen him in the past few weeks. Granted, he was playing against, not teams named Oklahoma. But Oklahoma, they have to now raise the question, like, they were awful offensively. And a lot of that's to credit Tennessee defensively and whatnot, but they had 36 rushing yards, like, at home. Like, it just can't happen in my eyes. They didn't throw the ball well at all. I think Tennessee, this is a big win for them. I know they won by 10, and I think Tennessee was in control that entire football game. And so Tennessee just continues to impress me week after week after week. I said they were a sleeper for me, and next thing you know, they're not a sleeper anymore, right? They're a top team in the country now. The SEC is loading themselves up in the top 10. We have an incredible matchup this week in the SEC with Bama, Georgia, and like, football is amazing when the SEC is this competitive, and like, Tennessee is a legit contender. And week after week, they continue to prove that. And so I'm excited. I'm all for it. I really am all for it. But Tennessee was very impressive. But Oklahoma, they were real bad, like really bad. And maybe that's credit to Tennessee. Maybe Tennessee's really good. But to only rush for 36 yards, like, what are we doing? I know you had to throw the ball because you were down late, but still, like, it can't happen. And that's just my opinion. So shout out to Tennessee, man. They are legit, and they're a ton of fun to watch. And I was looking up tickets for Tennessee-Bama at Tennessee, like, it's a night game. Because if one dream, like, that would be a dream, right? Those dream games to go to. So if we can get a donation, us three, it would only cost us $1,500 to go into the stadium and watch the game. So
There you go.
we need a donation. I'll drive us to Knoxville. I'll make it happen.
I think I got practice that morning, but I'm there. Like,
exactly.
if the donut comes in, I'm there.
But that's a once in a lifetime atmosphere in that.
True.
But Tennessee goes to Bama, and the other game that's that day, Georgia goes to Texas.
Georgia.
So
Yeah,
so
exactly.
ABC got themselves some with that slate, because one of those is going to be at 3:30 and one of them is going to be at 7, and that's going to be insane. But
that day is shaping up to be better than October 9th or October 12th.
Yeah,
you're right.
In my opinion.
But the one thing that scares me about Oklahoma is they went out and handpicked Jackson Arnold to be their quarterback of the future. They let Dylan Gabriel walk out the door because of Jackson Arnold. He was their quarterback of the future, and he's benched already. This is what we're going into week 5, and he is benched. He's done. He's going to transfer to Oklahoma most likely, and his career there is done. And I mean, this is that's a huge deal, because let's not think that Oklahoma is this smash mouth team that's only scored 15 points. Let's not forget, here's the lineage of Oklahoma quarterbacks. You got Sam Bradford, right? He won a Heisman, took it to the national championship, lost to Florida. After that, you have a little bit of, just average. Oh, Baker Mayfield, pretty good, won a Heisman, took you to the playoffs. After that, you come in, you get Spencer Rattler, who ended up being pretty good. But guess who you bring in after that? Caleb Williams. How did you end up being pretty good? I'm sure I'm forgetting one. And then after that,
Kyler
you just keep bringing in. What?
Kyler Murray.
Yeah. Kyler Murray.
Oh, there it is. I was forgetting the Kyler Murray in between Baker and Caleb, who also won a Heisman.
Jalen Hurts, yeah.
Jalen Hurts. So let's not talk about Oklahoma scoring 15 points is not normal. Like, this is not okay, and it is a big deal that they handpicked this quarterback, and he's not the guy. And they basically got to start over at that spot, because Oklahoma has a roster that's ready to compete for an SEC championship, and they can't do that because of their limitation at that quarterback. And that's something that you don't think you'd be saying about an Oklahoma team if you just look off the base the last 18 years of their history. So really big deal. And then for Tennessee, I mean, man, you got Josh Heupel, who's offense, right? And their defense might be their best part of their team right now. This is back-to-back kind of primetime games where Nico didn't blow you away. Nico, I mean, he's good. He's got all the talent in the world. But, I mean, he's not throwing for 403 touchdowns. He's not. He's playing complimentary football, and he's doing what's asked of him. I mean, that's a big deal, because, Josh Heupel teams, they're going to score. Just look at 2 years ago when they had Hendon Hooker. It's going to happen. But, anyway, I definitely wanted to get that out there about Oklahoma, and it's a big deal that, they got this many questions at quarterback. It would be like if DJ Lagway didn't work out of Florida. That's the guy that Florida has went and pointed out. That said, you're the guy that's going to lead us back. Because the same thing with Oklahoma, and he just hasn't. But maybe the most not surprising because I predicted that would happen, but didn't have all the confidence in it. USC Michigan, first of all, was a classic. What a game. CBS.
Yeah.
It felt weird to have that game on CBS, but it also felt right, if that made sense. Just big game on CBS. We said that Michigan would run the ball 50 times, and they only threw for 37 passing yards, and they won the game against USC. And by the way, Miller Moss, James, what's the term you like to say? Hooper. Just brought them back.
Dog, bro. He's a dog. He's a dog.
USC went it was either into the second half or into the fourth quarter with like negative 16 rushing yards. And they had a chance to win the game. Like, that's because Miller Moss is a freaking dog. And I want to talk about, just to say that about USC first. If I was a USC fan, I'm still ecstatic. I'm not throwing the season away. You lost in the big house to a still good Michigan team that was playing for their lives. You still only have one loss in the Big Ten, whatever. Anything can happen still with the playoffs, especially in the extended playoff. But for Michigan, I mean, that's Michigan football. And there's nothing that gets me more fired up than saying, you know what, first and goal at the 1, we're going to run it 4 times. And you're not going to stop us from getting a yard. And USC didn't stop them, but I'm just very impressed with USC because you need to think about where they were a year ago. This was a team that couldn't make an open field tackle and that got dominated in the trenches. I heard, I saw on Twitter that said if USC played this game last year, Michigan would have won 50-10, just strictly based off physicality. And that shows a lot about Lincoln Riley's team at USC to even come in and compete. And for Michigan, this win doesn't do much for me, because to go compete in the Big Ten, you're going to have to throw the football. And to be completely honest, I don't think they have the athletes at receiver to go out and help out Orji, who's not even a gifted thrower to begin with. So, you're not going to bludgeon Ohio State to death like they did to USC. It's just not going to happen. They're better up front and for those more teams. But regardless, a massive win for Sherrone Moore in Michigan to come out of that 2-2, having 2 big losses at home. I didn't think it was going to happen. I knew they were going to play this type of style, but still huge nonetheless. But yeah, those were the 3 big games in college football. Do you guys have any reaction to all of that before I quickly get into the new PAC 8 that's coming?
No, not really. I mean, I think that was a pretty relatively bland week in college football. We had some of those big games, but for the most part, I mean, we're going to get into the heart of college football season, I think, in the coming weeks. And right now, whatever we can get, we can get.
Exactly. Georgia-Bama, by the way, is this weekend. And that is whatever you're doing, you stop and you watch it. And so that's coming. So
can't wait.
Anyways, so the Pac-12, for those who do not know, are trying to rebuild. And they're rebranding. They got teams like UNLV and teams that they try to get like USF, but they really kind of stayed up. They got like, teams, and they basically took half the Mountain West and brought them into the Pac-12. And what I think the Group of 5 should do, instead of just cannibalizing each other, which is what they're doing, because as much as it hates for me to say, the Pac-12 is not a power conference anymore. It's just not. You can add all these teams, but like Boise State going to the Pac-12 doesn't make you a power conference. Instead of the Pac-12 and other conferences, whether it's the Mountain West, the AAC, and all those conferences, instead of just them cannibalizing each other just to survive, I think they should come together as one and play each other, have their own schedule, and whoever comes out number 1 of this new group of these Group of 5 teams gets that last playoff spot. It's basically like the national champion of the new Group of 5 gets in, and it's almost like an at-large bid for March Madness for a mid-major conference. You get in and you get a chance to go compete, because right now they're not going to survive from cannibalizing each other. So I think that the entire Group of 5 should band together, and instead of the Pac-12 is taking from the Mountain West, and the Mountain West is going to go take from the American, and the American is going to go take from the Sun Belt. Instead of doing all that, I think they should all band together and say, look, we're going to play against each other, and we're going to hold our own, maybe not even championship, but hold our own agenda, and whoever comes out with the best record against all these people can get that last bid in the playoff. I mean, what do you guys think? Do you guys think that's crazy? Do you think,
it's hard.
Can you work off that or what?
It's hard. I mean, in my eyes, it's like right now we look at college football, and we already see it with the Big Ten, and we look at the SEC and all this, and we look at favorable schedules, right? Like one season Michigan can have the easiest schedule in the country, and now Michigan has the toughest schedule, whether that's non-conference or conference, whatever. You look at Missouri, right? They favored a very easy SEC schedule. So my concern with that idea is that you're going to get some of these schools that just get easy draws. Now, I think the best way they can do this is, my issue is the penalization. When they were talking about Florida State leaving the ACC, they were all talking about the penalty is way too big for Florida State. They can't eat that kind of money to leave the conference. And that was fair. I don't remember how much money it was, but it was a lot. It was a lot. Well, the poaching penalty for leaving the Mountain West to go to the Pac-12 is $10 million. And $10 million for a college athletic fund is not that much money. Like that's a donor. That's a few donors going out there and saying, yeah, I'd rather watch Boise State play in the Pac-12 or, whatever it is. And so my concern is that the penalties aren't big enough for these schools to leave. And I think that's why they're just leaving. They don't care. $10 million, I'm going to go play in a real conference. Cool. That works. So I think what they need to do is they need to make the poaching penalty higher. I don't know if that's even possible. I know the Pac-12 just filed a lawsuit today against the Mountain West for stuff like that, or they're challenging the lawsuit. So I don't know the best way to do it. I like your idea, Johnny. My concern is that's just too many teams. I don't know how many teams that would be. It's probably no different than the Big 12.
It's a lot, but it's better than them cannibalizing each other. That the Sun Belt in 3 years could have 4 members and they're not a conference anymore. And instead of them just trying to fight for survival, and you say like the schedule being soft, that the schedule for the Group 5 frankly doesn't matter. Unless you Liberty's going to go undefeated this season. Their hardest game's this week when they play App State. And it's cool when like Memphis goes out and plays Florida State and beats them, but if Florida State's really bad, they're basically a Group 5 team this year. Like that stuff doesn't necessarily it matters.
They got it done. They got it done.
It's just I just hate to see them cannibalize, because this is what's going to happen. They're going to keep UNLV is going to go to the Pac-12. It's going to be their 8th team. Then the Mountain West is going to take like Appalachian State or do something crazy and take an East Conference or Eastern Coast school and just bring them over. But anyway, it's just an idea. It won't happen, but just wanted to throw that out there.
I don't hate the idea, John. I have a hard time seeing like how they're gonna get the Group of 5 teams. Like, how are they gonna choose one winner between them? Real quickly, what I was thinking about there kind of is they could shorten a season from like 12 to 10 games. There could be a Group of 5 ranking, and then they do like a little 4 8-team playoff in what would be their 11th or 12th game of the season, and then the teams that don't make it can play whoever by some criteria. So that's kind of what I was thinking, but I don't hate it.
I mean, as a fan, I'm so for that.
I think that's a great idea, Tanner. And this is why we should be running college athletics and not whoever is doing it. But that's a great idea, Tanner. Because you're right, there's no way to govern how you rank those. So I think you could do it off strength of schedule. If Memphis does go beat a Florida State, they're the 1 seed in the playoff, and whoever wins that, still playing in the 12 games, maybe a 13th plus a conference championship can be that kind of national championship, and they go in. But it's just
what you could do is you could be like, hey, the Mountain West is kind of falling apart. The Americans eventually probably going to fall apart. So you could have like Sun Belt. This is just an example. Sun Belt, Mountain West, American, some other conference. They play a full 10-game conference season. The winner of that conference gets into that Group of 5 playoff. Boom. Then there's a 4-team Group of 5 playoff. Winner gets the bid. But I'm disappointed the Mountain West is falling apart for basketball circumstances.
Yeah.
Electric, and it's gone. I have got to enjoy this last season of Mountain West basketball.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It cannibalizes other sports because, frankly, those sports don't matter. As much as we love basketball and as much as we do, like college basketball, frankly, and unless it's like 10 teams, doesn't matter. Even those don't profit at some of the smaller universities. I mean, just for example, like Florida is going to profit hundreds of $1 million from football this year, just with the TV deal, not even including ticket rights. And I say Florida because they have I don't know what Notre Dame's TV deal is, James, with NBC, but Florida is part of that, multi-billion-dollar TV deal with ABC. And, frankly, it doesn't matter. College baseball, which has gotten huge, frankly, does not matter because maybe except for 3 teams, they still lose the school money. So it's just terrible what's happening for all that. But it's the world we live in now, and that's the world of conference realignment. So we'll move on.
Yeah.
We'll move on
I
to
will
NFL.
say Notre Dame does get paid like $50 million a year from NBC.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I mean,
So exactly, and that's what
that's
funds.
why they won't get a conference.
Yeah, but Notre Dame getting paid $50 million a year from NBC is why they have a women's soccer team, for example.
Yeah.
And why? And I'm not saying that it's a great thing because it provides people with free education and scholarships. But I'm saying is that is why they have it, and this conference realignment is really putting a screws to all that because again, eventually the Rutgers soccer team is going to have to go to Eugene, Oregon to play a conference game, and it's ridiculous. But don't even get me in that. Me getting on that tangent is almost worse than Missouri going to UMass next week. The tangent I go on with that. But we'll move on to NFL, where none of us are happy right now. We'll start with the Bears. And before I get to you guys, I sat with Tanner and watched the entire Bears game. I've watched every Bears game except for one in its entirety this year. DeAndre Swift was the worst free agency signing that Ryan Poles have had. And I understand he's only making $8 million or whatever. How nice would that $8 million be right now to go sign a freaking left guard that can actually block somebody? And I saw something that Tanner or James, you guys might have this number. DeAndre Swift has like 20 rushes so far of like 2 yards or less on the season. And it just multiple like negative yard carries. And you could say it's the offensive line, which part of it is, but it's also very similar to like Ollie Gordon in the sense that it just looked like he doesn't have the same bursts. He looks slow and he looks unathletic. And you're putting all this pressure on Caleb Williams. Like, oh, by the way, we don't have a run game. You have maybe a second and a half to throw until even the Colts pass rush is in your face. Go save us. There's nothing he can do. I mean, there really is nothing he can do. And like one of the interceptions was really bad. Not really bad. It was bad. The other one, it's like, what do you want him to do? He's getting hit almost every single time. So that's what I've noticed from an outside perspective. The defense is still really good. Anthony Richardson is atrocious right now. I mean, he's so bad. Him and Will Levis right now are like on the same tier, but he makes one throw. I mean, he's crazy because he had that one throw to Pierce off the back foot, just flick of the wrist, 50 yards. And then the next throw he throws the worst interception I've seen all year, worse than Will Levis, the one he had in the red zone on the 2-yard line. But that's my observation of the Bears from an outside perspective. And frankly, I don't know how they can fix it right now. And I think it's an even bigger problem because, James, you mentioned in the last episode, Ryan Poles is a former offensive lineman. And he's too busy building the skill positions and not focusing on the trenches, which is what you need. But anyway, that's my Bears segment. What do you guys got?
Yeah, I would like to start off by Ryan Poles making the mistake that every GM has ever made as GM as the Bears. We get in a cycle where we have a coaching staff that gets brought in year 2 of a quarterback's career. They fail that quarterback, and then we somehow like that coaching staff, and we keep them, and then we bring in a rookie quarterback, and after 1 year, we don't like that coaching staff. We get rid. It's just this never-ending cycle. We can't bring in a coach and a quarterback at the same time. It's just constantly quarterbacks and coaches ruining each other. And this coaching staff is ruining Caleb Williams. Why did this coaching staff get brought back? I don't know. Matt Eberflus has no clue how to manage a game clockwise. Sure, he's good in the locker room. His offensive coordinator should, quite frankly, be in prison.
He's worse than the last one. I mean,
It's second. I mean, when the Bears actually get a positive run of like 2 or 3 yards and it's second and manageable, we're running jailbreak screen. We're running an end around to DJ Moore when our offensive line can't stay on its feet for more than a second. I mean, the second down play calling, it has been out of this world bad. I mean, the Bears are converting on second down 8% of the time. 8% of second downs the Bears are getting a first down on. That is last in the league by more than 15%. That is awful. It's awful. And quite frankly, Shane Waldron, I mean, I'm getting close to like just making a rumor, like an allegation against him. Because like he's got to get out of here. He's got to get he He has got to go. I know it's been
What's your allegation
3 weeks,
against him?
but he is. I don't know. I'm gonna find it out. But this guy has got to get out of here. He's got to go. Sick and tired of it. Now, with all that being said, it is week 3, and on my panic meter, I'm in like the yellow-orange. I'm not in the red. I'm in the yellow-orange. If they get a win this week, we're back to that middle ground. But yeah, I'm very frustrated with this coaching staff. And the offensive line, obviously, but this coaching staff, it's remarkable how bad they are. Kudos to them for stealing money from the Bears.
Well, Tanner, you said in the preseason, you were like, "Oh, the Bears can win the Super Bowl," and you were like, "What's their weakness?" And what I tell you,
Coaching,
and that's a big thing, and it sucks because like you said, he's a good guy. It's the same thing with Napier at Florida. Just being a good guy doesn't necessarily mean you're the right guy. But what do you got, James?
Man, what a frustrating Sunday, truthfully. Like, the Colts are so bad at football on all levels. They have one good guy. His name's Jonathan Taylor. He was a difference maker on Sunday.
Even that, he can't catch the football.
No, but I mean, he can run the ball with the best of them. So here's my concern is we've been talking about the Bears offensive line being bad all summer. We knew it, right? We knew the Bears offensive line was going to be bad. So our question was, okay, Shane Waldron, what are you going to do play call wise? Because Caleb's going to have to get the ball out quick. What are you going to do? You're going to roll him out? You're going to make these quick hitters? And guess what? He hasn't done any of that. And here's the thing. These screens work for other teams. You want to know why? Because other teams can block. Other teams can get out there and make a block. The Bears can't block anybody. Like, nobody. Like, I could get home. Like, I'm ripping through Darnell Wright, and I'm getting home. Like, I'm getting home, okay? So
Damn, you're agile.
I'm agile. So my concern with the Bears is, okay, there's a lot of takeaways here. I think Caleb Williams got a lot of confidence on Sunday, believe it or not. I really do. I understand he threw the ball way too many times. He threw the ball 52 times. Threw for a ton of yards because he had to throw the ball a lot. I think there were a few drives there on Sunday where it's like, okay, this is why we drafted him 1 overall. Even though he has a terrible offensive line, this is why. There's takeaways, right? Rome Odunze started to look a lot better. That's a win. That is a huge win for the Bears. If him and Caleb can continue to be on that connection, DJ Moore and him look like they're back, hopefully, getting along with each other. Get Keenan back. We talk about Swift every week on this podcast. And I was talking to a buddy about it, and he brought up a good point that Swift has never been a guy that's just going to get the ball and hit the hole. He's always been a guy that's going to be patient, wait for something to open. Well, Swift, nothing's going to open, brother. Like, there's not going to be a hole there. Like, you're going to have to make something happen. And here's the thing. Until the Bears fix their offensive line, Roschon Johnson's going to be our best bet with running the football. Roschon Johnson has an ability to just say, I don't care who you are, I'm going to run through you, and that's just how it's going to be. I think Roschon Johnson has to be RB1 moving forward. He's not going to be, but I think he has to be.
And he's a good pass blocker too.
He is just so much better right now than Swift. And that's just whatever. It pains me to say that because I was so excited about that Swift signing in the offseason, but it's not working. Oh, well, go use the draft pick, right? Like the Bears hit on Roschon Johnson. It's a clear hit. The Bears hit on Roschon Johnson. So my takeaways from Sunday were the Colts are still god-awful at football. The Bears fans, we need to lock in. You better double strap in because guess what? We might look at our schedule and say, oh, we've got some favorable matchups coming up. We're going to lose to the Panthers. Andy Dalton is going to throw for 500 yards against us.
Freaking back.
Like,
come on.
We got the Rams at home this week. I'm going to be at the game. I already know what's going to happen. Sean McVay is going to totally outcoach Matt Eberflus, and that's going to be the difference. That's going to be the difference.
Exactly. Bears are 3-point favorites, by the way, in that game.
And then we go to London and we play the Jags. That's a coin flip because who knows what the Jags are going to be.
James,
right?
That's your boy Trevor Lawrence, top 3 quarterback in football. Like we've all had some bad takes, so I'm not going to harp on James too much. Like, for example, I probably had the worst take ever on the podcast when I said the Broncos were going to beat the Dolphins, and the Dolphins put up 70. But
that's all right. No,
Trevor Lawrence,
T-Law
not a great quarterback, by the way.
T-Law is not hooping. T-Law is not hooping. I'll tell you that. I mean,
You guys see the interception?
T-Law.
I watched most of that game last night, mostly because
Yeah, I did
James
too.
Cook hit 40 yards, but just overthrowing. Oh my God, poor. Not to mention they gave him $275 million. He's their quarterback until 2030. Oh,
He got a bag. He got a
but
bag. Yep.
like the Bears suck. The Bucks, I'm not even sure they're a professional football team right now because their entire defense is hurt. I mean, Bo Nix has 9 seconds to throw. Like, okay, first of all, I get the Bucks are without their 2 starting defensive tackles. Vita's out, and their first round pick from last year is out. But I mean, these are still like NFL players, and you guys should see on Twitter the pockets that Bo Nix is getting. Like it is insane. I could stand there and hit Cortland Sutton when I have 10 seconds to throw the football. It is just ridiculous. And look, this was just a dangerous spot for the Bucks because I think it's good that it happened now because the Bucks play in the next 5 games. They play Philadelphia at home. They go to Atlanta or then to New Orleans. In some order, it might be flipped. And then in some order, they play the Ravens, Chiefs, and 49ers. Those are the next 6 games. So this was a good little kick in the pants for the Bucks. If you had told me, look, as a Bucks fan, you take 2-1 when you got Washington at home, go to Detroit and Denver at home. You think you lose that Detroit game, but whatever. You still come out of this 2-1. The Saints, I'm still saying I think the Saints are fraudulent. I was kind of predicted right because the Eagles don't have any world beaters on defense, and they really kind of shut down the Saints. But with all that being said, I don't want to go too much into the Bucks. Their right tackle was still hurt, and so therefore the Denver has the greatest pass rush ever and sacked Baker like 12 times. But anyway, James, Tanner and I had a nice romantic lunch date today at Kraza, which was painful. Not Tanner being mean Tanner speaking, but Kraza's food. And I posed Tanner with this question. Is the product in the NFL right now bad? And I say this because officiating in both NFL and college has been horrid through the first 3 weeks for the NFL and 4 weeks for college. It has been really bad. And then the product on the field, frankly, hasn't been the same. There's a lot of key players that are injured or didn't do training camp because of contract stuff. And until Jamar Chase broke out last night, frankly, weren't playing well. There's too many penalties that are on the field and scoring is down. There's as many non-productive quarterbacks in the NFL now as there ever has I can remember in the last 5 years. So, I mean, James, do you think the product in the NFL right now is bad?
I think you're crazy to think that it's not bad, like truthfully, because the product that we're seeing is frustrating. It's frustrating to turn on the TV. Like and we saw this last year. Like Tom Brady said it last year, right? Like I'm pretty sure he said something about it last year. But like you said, Johnny, the officiating from every level, from the high school level to the college level to the NFL is awful. And I don't know what happened. I mean, I understand that's why you see a lot of professional sports are going to the AI, the robot, whatever, because the human error factor is being played way too much. I mean, these people are making literally like life-changing decisions. Like,
well, I'll say this: at least for major college football and the NFL, there's no reason why referees should have day jobs. Being a referee should be their job. Yeah. And the fact that a guy's working at 9 to 5 and then going to Tuscaloosa and going to be the referee for the Georgia-Alabama game is frankly not good enough. And the officiating in college football has been horrid. And look, what we say isn't gonna get back to the SEC officials or whatever, but that's the easy fix is to just NFL is different, but at least on the college ranks, make them full-time employees.
Yeah, I will say there's a few takeaways that I see positively for the NFL, and we're seeing it in these last few weeks with quarterbacks. When, I mean, for example, like Young gets benched, and then Andy Dalton goes out there and hoops, right? Sam Darnold had to take over a job in Minnesota. Now they're hooping. So like, there's still signs that there's plenty of talent all over, and we all know that there's talent all over the place. But the problem is injuries. Like, people are getting hurt. There, every single game in the NFL, there's probably a cart being rolled out to pick up a player. Like, they're just scooping them up, put them on the cart, and saying like next. Like, This is not the medieval times where like there's got to be steps taken, and that's why I've always raised the question to anybody I watch football with: is this sport going to be around in 50 years? Like, one, because you look at how many horrific injuries happen, and I think that's the problem with the NFL right now. Like, people are getting upset and pissed that people aren't being healthy. Like, players aren't healthy. So that, and then at the same time, you looked at how many quarterbacks like didn't throw a touchdown pass in the first 2 weeks. Like, that's sad. Like, granted, the Bears had one of them, but it's
an alarming number.
It's an alarming stat. Yeah, and rushing numbers are down. You know why rushing numbers are down? Because the running back position has been devalued in the NFL. Nobody wants to pay an NFL running back because they're expendable. Like, because if you invest in a good offensive line, you're going to have a good running back no matter what. Look at the 49ers. Look at what Mason's been able to do. Granted, they just lost, but they have an offensive line that a lot of people think I could run through, right? I'm not saying me. I'm definitely not saying I could run through it. But anybody that has some speed could run through that line because it's impressive. So, like, the expendable positions like a running back is like, that's what's frustrating to me the last few years. We saw it when Saquon didn't get paid. And then next thing you know, he gets whatever since the Eagles. My frustrating thing with the NFL is week after week, NFL season doesn't get good. You don't get good play. It's until a few weeks before the playoffs, and then the playoffs are electric. And that's my issue with the NBA. My issue with the NBA is we don't get the same level of play as we do in the playoffs. And I get it. It's a long season.
That's a whole different conversation. But yes, I agree.
Exactly. But it's frustrating. It's frustrating. You guys are getting – people in sports don't understand the value of a dollar. They're getting paid way too much money. I don't care if you're playing 82 games. Go out there and play 82 games. You are getting paid millions of dollars, and you're going to be able to retire at 38 years old. Cry me a river if you don't want to play 82 games, truthfully. Like, cry me a river.
I'll go play 82.
Yeah.
I'll go play 82.
I'll go play 162 if you want. It won't be good.
Baseball. But I like how we got to NBA there. But I will say into your comment that football might not be around in 50 years, it will be just because it generates so much money. And the people that actually make decisions, the people above Roger Goodell, will never not have this sport because it makes them so much money. And, that's a sad reality because, look at the 49ers. I mean, their 5 best players were like questionable going into the game or just strictly out. But I know Tanner has a different opinion on this, and some of his points are actually very good. So I'm going to let Tanner rebuttal James here.
Yeah, so I don't think the NFL is a bad product. If you want to say it's been not as good of a watch early on, okay, good for you. I think part of it is they have a longer season. The preseason doesn't matter anymore. Nobody plays in the preseason. We have guys sitting out 4 days a week in training camp because they want to be healthy for the season. At the end of the day, the NFL, guys are getting hurt because people are bigger, faster, stronger. Defenses are getting better. It's a copycat league. Everybody's trying to copycat the Kansas City Chiefs. Nobody's doing it. Nobody can do it correctly. But defenses are starting to adapt to this kind of modern era football where we're going to throw the ball around the yard. We're going to throw it downfield. So I just think part of it is defenses are getting better. They're learning how to stop this kind of modern passing attack where we're going to spread you out, push the ball downfield, nice, clean, tight pocket. That's not going to happen anymore. Pass rushers are too good nowadays. I don't think it's a worse product by any means. I think it's a little bit of a different watch, especially early in the season. It's a much different watch than come November, December. These guys, it's still early. I mean, the Bengals are 0-3 right now. They could be 12-4, and nobody's going to remember the first 3 weeks of the season when the Bengals sucked and there were no touchdown passes being thrown. Like, it's a long season. I think it's just early for a lot of these offenses. Defenses are going to click early. That happens in most seasons. I know it's at a historical rate this year, but I mean, it's just the game's evolving, it's developing, and it's always going to change. It's never always going to be a passing league. It's never always going to be a running league, never always going to be a defensive league. Whoever the top dog is, everybody's going to try and chase them, and the top dog right now is the Chiefs. Everybody's trying to figure out how to stop that offense, and teams are starting to do it. So I don't think the product's getting any worse. I just think the game is evolving, and it's always going to evolve.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. The only thing I will say to that is, like, if defenses are getting that much better, why aren't offenses getting better? Like, a few of them are. right? A few of them are like the Chiefs, right? A
Buffalo
few of them
Bills.
have, the Bills. They figured it out, right? But every defense seems to be getting better. But offenses still are just in this cycle of just not being good, and so like that's my concern. And I agree with what you said. Like it is easier for the defenses to click. I mean, absolutely. It's just my concern is like, and when you look at stats, and yes, a lot of it is the defense. Passing yards are down, rushing yards are down, passing touchdowns are down. Like everything's down. And granted, that is good. It's probably could be because of good defense, but you still have to raise the question: are the guys not as good, or are they not getting better? Are they just sending out a quarterback who can can spin it a little bit, whatever, a little mobile on his feet? Like quarterbacks have definitely evolved, right? There's very few quarterbacks who are just true pocket passers now, right? Quarterbacks have really turned into that, multi-threat. You look at Josh Allen, the best in the game now are weapons all over the field. Lamar, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen,
Jaden Daniels.
Jaden Daniels has absolutely emerged, right, as rookie of the year possibilities. Like
Aaron
Malik
Rodgers.
Neighbors. That there you go.
Yeah, Malik Neighbors is hooping too. Yeah,
But I will say that Tanner.
I was just gonna say I think that part of the reason defenses part of the reason I don't mind a low scoring game. I think when defenses are coming out there in a defensive battle, you're gonna have close games. You're gonna have close finishes. You're gonna get to the midway through the third quarter, like in the Bears Colts game. Yeah, was it an ugly game? But it got to the point to where like every single play was like massive by like the midway point of the third quarter. So I kind of like it in that aspect where like, there's not going to be as many shootouts, which means there's less margin for error, which means the games are more entertaining to me, at least. I know some people want to see points, but I just want to see high level football. I want to see good games. And I'm not going to sit here and say 15-12 can't be a good game. I don't mind a defensive game where every play means that much more over the course of a four-quarter game.
I don't disagree with you. I think there are points in both years that are correct. I think it's alarming that the rates are down, but they're down by a lot. Like they're significantly down. And Tanner, I'm with you. I love some defensive football. You guys know me. I love running the football. I love kind of that old school kind of style. But it isn't affecting the viewing. I can tell you that. Guess how many people watched the Ravens Cowboys game? Average 26 million. So it's not hurting the people watching.
I'm tuned in no matter what.
In the products that's freaking lining Fox and CBS's pockets. But we'll end it here.
I do have one more. I do have one more thing because I'm sorry, and then as soon as I'm done saying this, you can end it because I forgot to talk about it in my Bears spiel. But that Bears game on Sunday was the most Bears loss ever. There are a few things that happened in that game that only happens to us. Like us. I say us as fans, as people who wear the C. Like, we throw a Hail Mary to end halftime, and DJ Moore catches it in the 1 yard line, and we can't score. That's one. We get a roughing the punter, and then he throws an interception in the next play. Like, it is painful to be a Chicago Bears fan, so pray for us. Like, truthfully, just pray for us. Like, we need it. Send them all our way.
I think I have a good way to describe the Bears organization in my lifetime. You know how like when you're out in public and there's like a toddler walking around on the cement and like the toddler falls down and they have like a scrape somewhere and they're just screaming like it hurts, it's the worst thing ever, and you just feel so bad for them. That's like what the NFL should look at like the Chicago Bears fan base as. That little toddler that is in the worst pain ever.
Give us a Band-Aid. Give us a Band-Aid. Give us a lollipop. Like, help us out. Help us out.
The thing is, like, you can't help us out that much because we're going to fall down again and get hurt again. It's just a repeating.
The next crack in the sidewalk, we're back down. Like,
exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny. The pain.
Johnny, end the pod. I just had to get that out.
Pain of being Chicago Bears fans. Fun episode. We talked about a lot of different things, which I like. It's boring just recapping, certain games and stuff like that. But if you made it to then, like, subscribe, send to somebody, check us out on Spotify, follow us there, and we'll be back on Friday with a new episode. And MLB playoffs are coming up. We will get in more of that. None of our teams will be in it, but we'll still talk about it, especially since the Padres are going to win the World Series. So if you made it this far, again, like, subscribe, send to someone, and and we'll see you guys next time.
Peace.
See ya.